Guys, my name is Jaslyn Fayette, and today I will be presenting my author study project on the great Frederick Douglass. Now, Frederick Douglass is a former slave turned anti-slavery leader who was a part of many contributions leading to the abolishment of slavery. Douglass was originally born as Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey in February of 1818. He was separated from his family at a very early age and was taken to a plantation in Baltimore, Maryland. It wasn't until 1838 that Douglass escaped for his freedom. He fled further north to New York City. That is when he changed his name and shortened it to Frederick Douglass. He soon began to work for William Lloyd Garrison as a traveling spokesperson for Garrison's paper, The Liberator. In 1845, Douglass published his first memoir, established fame as a public speaker, and he created his own anti-slavery publication. Douglass worked closely with Harriet Tubman and Abraham Lincoln to free others who were bound by the concept of slavery. Douglass lived a full and eventful life, but sadly in 1895, he passed due to what was believed to be either a massive heart attack or a stroke. Now, while doing research, I managed to find 7 fun facts about Frederick Douglass. Douglass was married to Anna Murray, who was born as a free woman on September 15, 1838. Just 12 days after he established his own freedom. Anna passed in 1882, and just 2 years later, Douglass was remarried to a white feminist by the name of Helen Pitts. When Anna passed in 1882, she was buried in Mount Hope Cemetery in Rochester, New York. After Douglass's passing, he was buried directly next to her. And later, when Helen died, she was set to be buried on the other side of Douglass. So he is technically buried in between the 2 women that he loved the most. Douglass's last name is based off of a character from Sir Walter Scott's book, The Lady of the Lake. And because he never knew his actual birthday, he declared September 3rd, 1838 as his official birthday because that was when his life as a free man had begun. Douglass was considered one of the conductors of the Underground Railroad, along with Harriet Tubman and many other influential figures. And him and Lincoln were actually really good friends. And because of that, Douglass was able to influence Lincoln into signing the Emancipation Proclamation. In this day and age, Frederick Douglass is often referred to as the founder or the father of the Civil Rights Movement. Now, we all know that Frederick Douglass was a very prominent speaker, but he was also an amazing writer as well. And these 4 books that he wrote were very influential. So we have The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave, Frederick Douglass in Brooklyn, The Heroic Slave, My Bondage, and My Freedom. So here is a little information about some of the novels that Frederick Douglass wrote. First, we will start with The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave, written by himself. This is an autobiography of Douglass's life from the time he was born up until 1841. The book was written in Massachusetts in 1845, and the settings of the novel took place in the Eastern Shore of Maryland, Baltimore, New York City, and Bedford, Massachusetts. In the novel, Douglass expressed his internal and external struggles of being a slave during that time. He also talked about how he escaped from slavery physically and mentally. This novel was the good, the bad, and the ugly truth of Douglass's life. Next is The Heroic Slave. Now, this was Douglass's first and only work of fiction ever written. Although it was based on a true story, he wrote it as a submission for the Rochester Ladies Anti-Slavery Society to be placed in their anthropology autographs for freedom. It was per their special request of him. The novel depicts the rebellion of slave ship Creole that had been led by Madison Washington. He led the other slaves on the takeover of the ship, and those who survived sailed the ship to the Bahamas. The rebellion is still known as one of the most successful rebellions in American history. Now, we'll talk about Frederick Douglass in Brooklyn. This novel is simply a collection of controversial speeches that Douglass gave while he was in Brooklyn. These speeches were given all over the city at some of the greatest leading institutions in Brooklyn. And he gave these speeches to promote his anti-slavery agenda in the mid-19th century. And lastly, My Bondage and My Freedom. This was Douglas's second autobiography. He used this novel to make revisions to his original memoir in 1845, and this book included more of his experiences as a traveling lecturer in the United States, England, Scotland, and Wales. He also used this novel to promote prominent Black abolitionists during that time. Douglas incorporated letters from Thomas Auld, his former slave master, a ship captain, and he had a few excerpts from some of his speeches given while he traveled. Now, researching Frederick Douglass was much more interesting than I thought it would be. I learned the basic things about him when I was younger, but I found out many new interesting things about Mr. Douglass. To the right of the screen are a few of the sources that I used to research some of my information and other things I got out of two of the books that I read of his. I will make sure to post the links down below, but thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.